o'clock in the evening. We've got a number of agenda items to get through, so I'll make a start. One, apologies for absence. Is there any apologies for absence? I've got Councillor Churchill who is poorly, hence why I'm here. No, we're here, aren't we? Cool. Section or agenda item number 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of Cabinet held on the 13th of June 2018 and the minutes of Cabinet held on the 11th of July 2018. Just for clarity, one of the minutes has the additional notation from Councillor Watkins, reference the comments made regarding the fly tipping paper. Aaron, is there any questions or any issues with the accuracy of either of those minutes, as well as the notation?
Yeah, it's all fine. Thank
All
you.
agreed? Lovely. All right, so for the benefit of the recording, the minutes for both the 13th of June and the 11th of July are both agreed, and I'll sign those after. Items of urgent business. I have not agreed to do any items of urgent business, so I'll move on to section 4, agenda item 4, sorry, which is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any interest in clear tonight's cabinet meeting? No? Excellent. So we then move on to agenda item number 5, the statements by leader or deputy leader. I have got Rob's notes. He's asked me to present a number of things tonight, so I shall relay the messages that Rob's given me to relay. The first one is around enforcement. As colleagues will be aware, the council is embarking on a new stop it strategy aimed at curtailing issues across the borough which are causing social harm. There's a number of things that have happened over the last few weeks which Rob wants me to tell everyone about. So some of the successes are that Thurrock Council won a landmark case, becoming one of the first local authorities in the country to use new powers to recover more than £1,000 of rent paid to a rogue landlord. Another one was that action was taken to tackle a breach of planning control. Over an unapproved development in Malvern Road, the officers moved swiftly and decisively, halting work at the site. We've got weekly visits by the civil enforcement officers underway down at the Manaway, aiming to curtail the recklessly parked lorries, of which those of us in the East are only 2 versed in. The local authority, in addition to the working group that's going on down at the Manaway, which some of us are part of, are now looking at creating permanent physical deterrents to prevent lorries from parking illegally. I believe they're called sheer curbs, if I've got the terminology right, but strategic locations to prevent HGVs parking, and that was an output of the recent working group between Council, Essex Police, and other organisations such as London Gateway DP. Fly tip was cleared in less than 2 days thanks to some excellent collaborative work between the civil enforcement officers and a private landowner, and there was some excellent work by the health and safety and legal teams which saw Tesco supermarkets fined £160,000 following a health and safety violation at their Chadwell St Mary's store, obviously one of the petrol stations. Rob now wants me to talk to you about action taken against antisocial tenants in housing stock. We've taken a strong stance against any council tenant whose antisocial behaviour is making their neighbours' lives a misery. In this municipal year alone, we have sent warning letters to hundreds of tenants and taken legal action against 8 households and evicted 3 due to the issues of antisocial behaviour caused by the individuals and gang-related activity also. Antisocial behaviour, of course, unfortunately, can by a few people will affect the lives of many. And ultimately, there's a whole range of crimes: vandalism, intimidation, drug dealing. By taking action, we not only remove the troublemakers through faultless actions and be a entire blight on the community, we give a council house or a property rather to somebody who is on the housing list and is not going to abuse the system, not cause antisocial behaviour. So obviously that's a good outcome. There's been a number of initiatives, including high visibility patrols by the anti-social behaviour team and the police to provide reassurance to the community that we gather intelligence, take robust action, improve CCTV and security doors, and providing funding to help Essex Police crack down on gang-related crime. And additionally, those who cause motorbike and quad bike nuisance. I speak from personal experience, having spoken to the police constable responsible for the operation in terms of bikers, There is a belief that there's been good collaboration between Essex Police and Thurrock Council. We have funded some stuff that I'm not going to go into too much detail because, with respect, I want people that are causing offences to be caught. But there is some good collaboration going there. Rob attended the Perth League Fun Day, and he was one of hundreds of people who went to a very well attended family fun day down at the Garrison Estate in Purfleet. I think it was at the start of August. He was delighted to see the community coming together with people of all ages coming out to enjoy themselves, and it certainly showed that life on the estate is not often as sometimes conveyed. There was obviously the Ulster show, which was in the summer, again, a highly successful day. Thousands of people come to enjoy the sunshine, but most importantly come to enjoy the offers of the Ulster show itself. Thurrock Council sponsored the main stage, and it's great to see so many children enjoying the fantastic park ranger stand. It's nice feedback. And of course, clean it, cut it, fill it. It's only appropriate that we update everyone on our key policy. So since April, 1,314 potholes have been filled on time, which is the equivalent of 99% of potholes that are reported have been filled in that time limit, in the recognised time limit, sorry. 630 acres of grass cut, which is an area equivalent to 6 times the size of Vatican City. I'd love to know who finds these facts. Some of these are brilliant. 703 fly tips, tonnes of waste collected by the street cleaning teams, which is 737 tonnes, which is the same weight as 100 African elephants. 1,267 fixed penalty notices have been issued for offences such as littering, dropping cigarette butts, and varying forms of antisocial behaviour. And lastly, 77 people are facing prosecution after refusing to pay those fixed penalty notices for minor offences known as littering. That relays and links into our strategy around Stop It. We don't want this borough being a mess. We certainly know that the 170,000 people out in the borough don't want this borough a mess. We've done this enforcement piece of work quite deliberately. We charge as high as we can, and ultimately, if people don't pay, we will carry on pursuing them until they pay. We are not going to let people make this borough a mess without any form of sanction or accountability. So we're utterly unapologetic for that as a cabinet. Okay, so that's the statements made by the leader, or by me for the leader. Right, so we're moving on to agenda item number 6, which is briefings on policy, budget and other issues. I know Councillor Howden wants to talk. I've got something to say. So Councillor Howden does want to talk for the record. I'm going to make a small statement about the Fair Debt Summit. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything? No. James?
Thank you, Leader. Council always wants to talk, but when he wants to talk about something that he's prompting. Leader, we had a great summer in regards to A-level results and GCSE results. It was my pleasure to nip between St Clair's, Stamford and Corringham Sixth Form, William Edwards and Palmer's on the relevant days. In terms of A-level results, this year we saw 100% of all sixth formers achieve at least one A-level, which beat last year's record of 96.4%. In regards to the GCSE results, we have to remember that GCSE marking criteria nationally has become harder, much more rigorous, moving to the numerical system rather than the old lettered system. The GCSE results, however, despite that, have gone up this year. 62% of our young people getting pass grades of 4 or above, which is what used to be equivalent to a C. It was very pleasing to see very sharp increases at Hassenbrook and Gateway, schools who had quite a tough round of examinations last year, and see some of our schools that are at the very top of the tree, Brace Convent, Harris Academy, that have remained at the top. So a further increase, despite a tougher national criteria, was very pleasing. And I think when we talk sometimes about the £70 million this council and the government combined are investing in new school places, 3,500 school places that this council is delivering in this borough, sometimes we lose fact that those 3,500 extra places are life opportunities for every student. And when we look at 90% of our schools, good or outstanding, exam results getting better and better despite harder marking criteria, when we think that more children than ever before got their first choice of school place last year. That extra 3,500 places is a great life opportunity for those young people. And finally, because I can see Councillor Cockshall jumping up and down, it was my great privilege having known Councillor Cottrell's son since he was, I wouldn't say scruffy, but he was always an immaculate little boy, sat in the corner of our office, get some excellent A-level results this year. That was really personal satisfaction. I don't think Councillor Cottrell's son particularly enjoyed it because when he got his GCSE results, he was treated to being on BBC Essex with myself and my entourage. And again, when he opened his A-level results, instead of having quite a quiet morning, instead, once again, he had a press in his face because I was watching there waiting to see how well he had done, and he had done well, along with thousands of other students in that borough. So it was a really great exam period for us, really.
Thank you, Councillor. It's one of those memorable moments for everyone when they open that letter and find out how well they've done, and indeed how it will potentially project them forward into sort of the dizzy heights of success in different ways. And of course, we also must recognise that not everyone does rely on GCSE results to have a good, successful career. Well, very much congratulations to those that have done well in their GCSEs, but for those that haven't, there's plenty of alternative pathways. And life can be good for anyone. So, but really great hearing, James, the amount of success, like you say, coupled with the investment. This is a place where, I would say this with a degree of autonomy, having been educated principally in the borough, this is a borough I think I would want to be educated in if I was 20 years younger, without a doubt. So, thank you, James. I'm going to move the subject on to young people again, but coupled with longer-term concerns. So today we chaired our first Fair Debt Summit, something that means an awful lot to me. I've often conveyed my personal views on debt, principally how we help people who have a genuine desire to want to pay their debt, whether it be commercial or credit debt or household debt. Those who genuinely want it simply can't. Today's Fair Debt Summit went over two things, and there's another summit to come in the coming months. First part of that, was around the education element for younger persons. So we had, about 30, 35, 40 people in the room, teachers, head teachers, CAB, members, some members turned up, and we literally went through what form of education package we can shape and what sort of learnings we would want to impart on younger people. So those of us that did do silly things 10, 12 years ago, we want to try and avoid that for other people in the future by helping them sort of see the pathways into debt, look at what support mechanisms are out there to help them anticipate that something's getting out of control. And we had a number of excellent presentations from young people. They will certainly stay in my mind for a long time. And we're going to be looking, as we move forward, to shape an education package which we can roll out to later years education students to help them see them signs of debt, but importantly what the longer term impacts are. Of course, if someone takes out an IVA, yes, it may help them in the short term, but what it might do is in 7 years' time, when life will be a lot different, met someone and they want to get a mortgage, it might completely stop them doing that for 7 years because of a default on the credit file. So it's that sort of, yes, it was some hard messages, but it's done for the right reasons. The second part of the Fair Debt Summit was about those who want to pay but can't. We have had a comprehensive report from the IRRB, who is effectively an assessment body of the way that local government debt collection agencies work. We've had some very sound, very good feedback about the way we work with those people in debt, the way our processes work, and the relationships that we foster with people. Of course, there's some continuous improvement items, but generally the IRRV were very complimentary about the way we work. We also had a discussion on vulnerability provided to us by an external expert called John Cruz, who took us through the definitions of vulnerability and the sort of things that we need to look out for in terms of how we handle those people in debt. Really good session again. We've got a lot of great input again from about 35 to 40 people across the many different sectors. We are going to build or refresh the fair debt strategy, or policy rather, to make sure that we account for their feedback. We're going to be working with the groups over the coming course of months. This was generally, for me, something that means a lot to me. I found it very exciting. I had some good feedback after. I genuinely think we're going to be able to help people that are growing up in this borough hopefully avoid debt altogether, and if they do get into debt, then they've got the right support around them to get out of it. But anyway, more detail on that to emerge. Any more briefing policies? Number 7, petitions submitted by members of the public. I have received no petitions from members of the public. Agenda item number 8, questions from the non-executive members of council. I haven't received, or we haven't received, any questions from non-executive members of the council. Number 9, matters referred to the Cabinet for consideration by an overview and scrutiny committee. I haven't had anything referred to us from an overview and scrutiny committee. So we're moving on to the core agenda of the evening. We've got 4 agenda items. The first one is agenda item number 10, the Young Persons Substance Misuse Treatment Service Re-procurement Decision 110478 on page 27 onwards. Councillor Howden.
Thank you, Leader. The Young Persons Substance Misuse Treatment Service really is a vital service that we offer. It's obviously there for some of our most vulnerable young people who do discover that they do have an addiction to certain substances. But more to the point, it is a key tool when we're talking about the front line of some of the problems we're trying to deal with a drug culture that can erupt anywhere in the country at any time. And what's really vital is that not only do we have a system in place that's compassionate and reactive enough to support young people who need that assistance, but also a system that is smart enough and is tooled into the wider local government and enforcement family that we can then deal with those problems at the root. So what we're looking at here this evening is a factual analysis of where the service currently stands, with a 30% increase that we're projecting of the 10-year-old to 17-year-old age group in the next couple of years. It's clear we do need a really robust service in place. So we're going through this re-procurement exercise to make sure that the service is obviously re-tendered now at the end of its life in terms of the contract, but is also fit for purpose and properly integrated with the authority. So it's not a savings exercise, it's an exercise making sure that we've got a fresh contract that's ready to deliver the things that we need. If you go through and look at the service specifications, one of the main points we're making is this will be better embedded within the Better Futures area within the council, and probably integrated with the mental health offer. So it's not just about hardcore treatment, even though that's what most of the clinical side of this contract will do. It will provide the clinical treatment obviously for addiction, but it's also about making sure that the appropriate and correct links are in place to deal with the resulting mental health issues. What it also does is it makes sure that it integrates with the wider enforcement offer. So we have expanded the youth offending service to make sure that the youth offending service is large enough and fully equipped to tackle drug gang issues in the borough, and this service will make sure that it properly integrates with that. So when you see a young person who may have a substance misuse problem, we are correctly tracking that back using the youth offending service, hopefully to go after the people who have supplied those substances. So this is a sort of an exciting exercise, making sure we've got that compassionate service in place to support young people with substance misuse issues, and also making sure that it's an integrated part of the council and we are going after any issues of inappropriate drug or alcohol supply.
Thank you, Councillor Howden. Colleagues, any comments or questions to the portfolio holder? Councillor Soolittle.
Well, it's basically a comment to say how I welcome this report, and particularly welcome my portfolio of the looked after children, because we have also reacted to this report, and in fact all foster carers etc. are having extra training to deal with how to recognise drug and alcohol abuse and mental issues, because you can see they are some of the most vulnerable children. And also we have got all the helplines etc. in the children's passports, which has been quite good. So I think this is a really positive report, and it will, I think, really give us some help and some ground on what is out there and what we can do. And I think we also, as councillors, have to be mindful. You know, we see an awful lot of people, and we can actually spot problems, and I think, you know, we have quite a role to play as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, any other comments? No? Do you want to sum up?
Yep, I think we'll just move to the recommendation. 1.1 that we proceed to the procurement process, which will be dedicated to the Director of Public Health in consultation with myself, and 1.2 that we build into the contract that needs to fully interact with the expanded youth vending service and the compact that we put in place between the OS and our schools to make sure that any such drug and gang issues are escalated appropriately. 1.3 actually needs to be struck out because that was a recommendation for the Open Scrutiny Committee to comment on the recommendations.
To carry over. Has Democratic Services got that note yet? Lovely, thank you. James, thank you very much. Very well written report, a lot of good intentions behind it, and there'll be a lot of success, I'm sure. Recommendations 1.1, 1.2, do the Cabinet colleagues agree?
Yes.
Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to lost my page. Thank you. Page 91. Agenda item number 11, which is the integrated medical centres delivering high quality health provision for Thurrock. Yes, agenda item number 11. Councillor Howden and Councillor Cockshaw, please. Lovely.
Thank you, Leader. This is something myself and Councillor Cockshaw have been labouring over for a while. When this project started several years ago, the idea of constructing what at the time were called healthy integrated living centres and hubs, and a few more words thrown in there. We were essentially just looking at quite a limited programme where we would be building new primary care estate and looking at how we can meld in community facilities at the same time. Thousand Hospital's rearrangement of services currently provided at Allset gave us a tremendous opportunity to put in place an MOU with health partners, which we did, guaranteeing that Allset won't close until these new centres are open, and making sure that the clinical services Thurrock people rely on move into these centres. So we're getting ourselves into a position where not only we're providing great primary care and great pharmaceutical care in our local communities, but also we're getting acute care out of hospital settings and into the community, and that's so important. So what this paper does specifically this evening, part of the recommendation releases money for the Tilbury hub. This is a massive investment into Tilbury. It's been spoken about for years, and now we're releasing the cash to get on and build it. That is a hugely exciting opportunity. I think it was about June 2016, Councillor Cockshaw said we need to give Tilbury some love. This is comprehensive and lucrative love that we are providing to the people of Tilbury, and that's very exciting. What else you'll see in the paper, the recommendations in regards to the ePut site, that is the Thurrock's Community Hospital site. We are working very well with ePut to help them master plan the entire site. So the site is both optimally used for what is currently there, for the new integrated medical centre that we're going to build there, and to make sure it has the appropriate logistics, for example, quality parking and access. Given it's Thurrock's hospital at the moment, it is in the centre of the borough, so it'll be a prime candidate to take on some of the larger elements from Allset, such as the minor injuries unit, for example, as a possibility. Parking is a key issue there. It's something Councillor Rigby has spoken to me about quite often, and we're going to make sure we get it right. So we'll be beginning that master plan process for the input now. The other sites, Corringham, the land's identified and it's already gone through planning, and Purfleet and I've mentioned Grace Purfleet working through the process as we speak. So land and finance are being pulled together now. And finally, Leader, what this paper does is it outlines what we're hoping for the ongoing process of the Integrated Medical Centre programme. We're talking about the phase 2 stage, whereas we're looking at a new estate that we're building, for example, a residential care home in Ockenden, an upgrade of Collins House and future estate, making sure that we're working well with Basildon to get more acute services out of hospitals into communities close to where people live. Councillor Watkins has done some very great work looking at how we can manipulate public transport routes to make sure that they flow to the IMCs. And we're going through that process as a part of phase 2 of the IMC programme, looking at how we can work with our mental health provider, currently ePut, to get more mental health services properly embedded in primary care. So this is not just an estate programme, This is making sure that we are taking mental health, acute care, delivering it in local communities, putting massive investment behind it. And these centres are so big, so exciting, they'll be so well designed. That is how we are going to attract best practitioners, new GPs to come here and work, because these are the type of facilities they are going to want to work in. This is a great upgrade to the local healthcare system. I'm very excited that we've called this here this evening as myself and Councillor Coxall's name. And
Yeah, I'm just going to talk about it. We talk about continuously about the all-sit dimension of this. We forget how this started and how the last administration dragged their feet on this, and how the GPs, and only today, you're reading about the most under-GP'd area in the country. And this is one of the reasons why the local authorities got to take that link in and work with that. With 2,000 per patient, 2,700 patients per GP in Thurrock, that is just unacceptable, and it's been unacceptable for many years. But when the GPs can work in somewhere, we've got to give them a better option to work here. And these IMCs are the reason why we can actually attract better GPs here to deliver high quality, good new buildings to be working in, and actually promotional reasons, and actually better learning experience for them. And it will move forward at a rapid rate now. It's been a long time coming. I'm really pleased with putting this today papers tonight. That delivers the 2002 agree. I'm exceptionally pleased that that's going to be the very first one. We're moving through till we've been under GP badly for many, many years, tens of years, and it needs to actually get a good quality GPs there, a good quality good building for actually GPs working, and then we can see some delivery of some outpatient work now. I'm really excited about what happens having Basel Hospital here and Thurrock Hospital here. And so we hear regularly in the paper, I've been one end to keep said, Mark, it's never going to happen. This is just pie in the sky. It's the Conservatives not doing anything. Where there's money here showing, we're committing tonight the money to actually start it. There's drawings now. It's not pie in the sky. It's going to happen. I know how many times you hear we hear all these stories, we never see it delivered. Well, this is that delivery. The Conservatives are here to build a borough, and we're building that borough. And another question we always get asked, which I always said, we haven't got a hospital in Thurrock. But we have got a hospital. It's called Thurrock Hospital. I visited it last Friday. I spent a good 4 or 5 hours walking around Thurrock Hospital. We have a Thurrock Hospital. It's in Long Lane. It's in the central Grays. I never understood when I first moved here 12 years ago, why the hell did we not? We've got a Thurrock Hospital, and it's not. We have to go to all sit and minor injuries. Like, it takes an hour and a half from Purfleet, I repeat. I couldn't believe it, on a bus, hour and a half to get to Allsit. When we've got a hospital in the middle of Grays where 70-80% of the population of Thurrock live. We need to use that hospital better, and I'm really pleased that this paper kick-starts that by making sure that we can actually have a master plan of the site. Because there's loads of land now, and we need to make sure that works as a good hospital. And finally, we have a fantastic hospital delivered here in conjunction with their health partners. That's exactly what a council should be doing at this, and exactly what we're going to deliver.
Here. Colleagues, any other comments or questions for Councillor Coxall or Councillor Howland? Councillor Watkins, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of comments, if that's okay. Obviously, this is a fantastic paper coming to us this evening. I can only echo what colleagues have said already this evening. This is the Conservatives delivering for the residents of Thurrock, and it's something the residents of Thurrock desperately need, and it's coming down to us to deliver that. From everything from giving Tilbury the love which it deserves, as Councillor Coxall stated back in 2016, which she has done on many things already. To providing vital new services into Corridor as well, and there's such great news. And the fact as well that we're not just stopping there, and we are looking at phase 2 as well, and looking at the future, continuing to look at what our residents in Thurrock need. I just wanted to comment from the transport point of view, coming to Cabinet next time around, will be the re-procurement of our bus services. And what I asked the team to do when we were looking at the re-procurement was to say, well, these need to be looking at the future. What will the future have? They will have these integrated medical centres, and we need to ensure that people who are using these bus routes can get to the new medical centres. And he went to BTR last night, and I believe the comments received back were very good. You know, this is fantastic news that we're already starting to work on the routes ready for these integrated medical centres, so that residents across Thurrock can access those services. And again, it's just the Conservatives delivering on the future projects making sure they're ready and accessible for all the residents in this borough.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Leader. Just to say how proud I am of being part of an administration that's delivering this. But in this particular report, the CCG and BTUAs have issued a top 10 facts commitment. And there's something there that really stands out. We will make sure all 4 centres are up and running fully before closing Hospital. We are not stopping any of the services we provide. And finally it goes on to say we will then sell Dorset Hospital. And I think this is really important, and the money will come back into your local NHS. So that money is staying here, and it's going to help us all the way forward.
Well observed. Memorandum of understanding sounds a bit clinical to me, but actually the power of an MOU certainly shout out to me. You know, when James and the team managed to secure that MOU with the NHS and CCGs, etc., in order to retain the services in Dorset before Dorset shuts, but in newly built, fresh medical centres, which wouldn't only house hospital-esque services, but also new places for general practitioners, which has been a problem for the 20 number of years I've lived in the borough. That is the power of a well-documented, well-drafted memorandum of understanding. And I think we also have to reflect on the fact that had that MOU not been agreed, potentially those services wouldn't be retained, but it was thanks to our Cabinet colleague, Councillor Howden, and a number of other people, we managed to secure that, which has led to make sure that all services don't leave this borough. They may not be in the building called Dorset Hospital anymore, but they will be within the borders. And of course we have Thurrock Hospital as well. Unless there's anything else, ladies and gentlemen, I think, oh sorry Councillor, I'm going to come back in.
Yeah, I just want to make, following Councillor Johnson's comment, I want to make a brief comment about how well we have worked with the NHS. Look at the sheer totality of this. This is tens of millions of pounds on new estate. This is reorganising where acute care is delivered. This is future-proofing the system. This is now pushing in beyond reorganising acute care and looking at how we can reorganise mental health care. It's fixing the parking and the transport to the centres at the same time. That MOU isn't just a document. That MOU describes the relationship that this council has built with the local NHS. A relationship that is so strong, the Secretary of State decided he wanted to come to Tilbury himself and talk to the CCG and talk to the council and talk to Bowson Hospital and say, wow, there aren't really any other place in the nation that are doing what you're doing now. And to prove how strong that relationship is, that MOU process, we're doing it again. Hopefully, next Friday, Health and Wellbeing Board will see a new MOU signed by, again, the council, Bowson Hospital, the CCG, Nelft and EPUT, looking at now how we can club together as an alliance and jointly tackle the problem of workforce planning, making sure that we've got the right skill mix in the borough, not just doctors and nurses, but social workers and other practitioners that we need. We have proven that we, as local government, can work productively with the NHS and deliver on the ground. We've proved that with the MOU with Dorset, and that is why we're now looking at an even more exciting MOU to actually cooperate with the NHS in a formal alliance and actually shape the workforce that our residents need. That is the strength of the relationship we have with the NHS. So when another party says the other party, the NHS, I would strongly advise them to actually look who's delivering on the ground.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to move on to the 5 recommendations, which is, they can be found on page 92 of the agenda, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 and 1.5. Do everyone agree? Does everyone agree?
Yes.
Agreed. Excellent, thank you. Okay, moving on to page 105, which is the agenda item number 12, which is the Q1 Revenue Budget Monitoring Report. One that everyone loves. Mark, so opening up the report, we know that at Council, the Budget Council, in the previous municipal year that we agreed a budget envelope for all departments and the local authority, and with a projected surplus of 2.49 million. We've always readily articulated our view that service budgets should be delivered within the envelope. Nothing has changed, we still have that view, and the officers frankly do as well. We have our first Q1 report in front of us. We have got some pressures. I think as long as I've done this job and watched other people do this job at this time of year, this is where things become a little bit animated. This is where the pressures come through at first. Legally, this local authority, as any local authority does, has to balance a budget by the end of the year. It will balance a budget by the end of the year, and we will mitigate and manage the pressures. But it's right that we address them now. We've got the 9 months, obviously, to close them down. But I'll go for that as we go through the report. So if we go on to page 106, you'll see the breakdown of the general fund position. You'll see there's obviously the savings for the usual suspects, but so fair play to the departments, namely finance, HR, strategy, comms and commercial services, and of course adult social care as well. Once again, there is an underspend showing in adult social care, housing and health. Very hard labour to do, intensely difficult task. We know that the pressures in adults as well as children is only intensifying. But of course, the pump priming from the injection that we put in terms of the social care precept appears to be yielding. So, but recognition where recognition is due. If we then move on to some of the other topics that we'll just go over, housing general fund 220 variance from budget, principally is associated with homelessness management. And the case with that, I know Councillor Johnson, in conjunction with his team, are looking at ways of mitigating the financial impacts without compromising the quality of service to those people that are absolutely in need of that support. Children's services, again, is always under pressure. It's never a new story, but it's the amount of pressure that is managed to mitigate. So 370,000 variance from budget. There has already been mitigation behind that, but still 370 is a good place to be where we were once upon a time, so if you remember rightly. Environment and Highways, obviously a combined department, bigger than what it has been historically. There is 265 variants at this moment in time, principally associated with waste disposal fees. That is a very much market-orientated, market-driven way of working. Fees aren't set and agreed at one point and they stay flat. There's variability in the market, and subsequently there's variability in what the local authority pays. I know Councillor Watkins is sticking to that one like glue with his team as well. One that we will need, well, sort of need to go all of it, but the one that I do want us to go over a little bit more in detail is the one corporate costs. So anyone who's familiar with this table is probably wondering what that's all about. So you'll remember when the council, every council, took on the duty of taking young children from overseas on board without the come over, because they're obviously running from where they've come from. We have historically always accounted for that in the children's budget. You can understand the natural inference that the children should be paid for by children, but subsequently, if you look at it, actually this is a corporate problem. This is a corporate spend. This isn't just pressure for Sue and Rory's department. This is something that the duty is on the entire authority to manage, to make sure that the unaccompanied asylum seekers and children are housed and looked after. We have decided to put it under corporate costs, principally to identify the pressure on the authority rather than the individual department. It just gives a lot more scope as to where the actual practicalities of the issues are. So that's where we are in total. As I've already said, we will be balanced by the end of the year. Legally we have to be, and legally we're going to be. I haven't got anything more to add to this. Does any other colleagues want to come in? Any comments to make? Councillor Johnson?
Thank you very much, Peter. As noted in your budget review, there is pressure on the Housing General Fund. As post-introduction of the Homelessness Reduction Act, which was introduced in April 2018, it places a legal duty on the Council to not only give meaningful support to resolve people's homelessness, but also introducing measures to try and prevent that happening in the first place. The process is obviously very labour intensive, and the Department are doing all in their power to reduce the use of temporary staff and the use of the most expensive temporary accommodation. However, I feel I should ask you to note that there is a continued trend to show actual high forecast costs associated with homelessness placements. I would like to state in that the Director is doing all in its power to reduce the risk while still helping people onto your next one of your lives letter.
Our life's letter.
Our lives letter, sorry.
Everyone's life letter. No, thank you, Councillor Johnson. Thanks for the update. Councillor Little.
Yes, I expect. Yes, firstly, the adult social care. I'm so pleased they're coming under budget. They work so hard, and I think, you know, looking at the care packages, etc., how we actually give out the contracts, it's been a real bonus to us. How I can see with the integrated medical services, that would help the budget on adult social care because people would have the services nearer to them. And I would hope not so many elderly people would end up in hospital, etc., which obviously puts on pressure further down the line. Also, the shared lives is now kick-started into working, and that gives such good outcomes for people's lives. Regarding the children's budget, yes, we're overspent, but an awful lot less than what we normally are. And what we have done is, we've got to remember, Thurrock's children, I've always said it would be nice if they were all cared for within Thurrock. And we have kick-started fostering, and we are improving, and in fact, because I sit on the fostering board as well, we actually see more parents coming forward to actually foster children, which has been great. And we're looking at the adoption services, we're bringing that back into house because I just feel that all children should be given a chance and to have a forever family. And this is so important. And I can see that impacting on the budget further down the line. But with children, as I say, my first priority is always to make sure every child is safe, as per with the adults, and hopefully we are confident that that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Howell.
Just labelling on the children's budget slightly, Leader. One of the things myself and councillors will pointed out in the past, that each year that in-year pressure becomes a little bit smaller as we continue to go down the process of demand management. So looking at where we are, hoping to make an announcement this year about enhancing the adolescent mental health service, looking at what we've already done to manage out the primary pupil referral unit and replace it with a network of inclusion units to support our children in mainstream education for longer. It's that constant demand management and that constant refinement of the principle of trying to care for our children as well as we can and try to keep them close to home that is bringing the budget back into line. So it's not just a budget balancing exercise and cutting our cloth accordingly, it is also making sure that the network of support we have got is more localised, is more efficient, and is actually tackling issues not just at the treatment stage but at the early detection stage. So each year as we display a balanced budget, as we have displayed the last 2 years in the Children's Department, it's not just an example of making sure that all the pounds and pence are in the right pot, it is also making sure that the system is a more responsive system and therefore a more cost-effective system.
Thank you, colleagues. So, just going over the rest of the report, Section 4 HRA is currently forecast to break even. Forgive me, I always get to it. Public health, again, the position is noted within. There is a commentary in 5.1, which shows the projected saving there. And then obviously we move on to dedicated schools grant. Work is ongoing. We have a good relationship with the schools, and that work is going on all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, unless there's anything else for the last quarter, I will move to recommendations, or recommendation, singular. Recommendation 1.1, cabinet note, forecast outturn for 2018-19, and a further mitigation is required to outturn within the agreed budget envelope from last February. Does everyone agree? Agree. Thank you. And the last paper of this evening, item 13 on page 119, is the capital monitoring report. Again, review mirror look of the last 3 months of the first quarter. There's 3 recommendations noted within. The most salient point to note is page 121, table 2. Principally, you'll observe that in that table there's different requirements to why the capital plan may be rephased. You'll notice that in the column reprofiling, we're going to be reprofiling a number of things, and if you look at Appendix 2, you'll see the reasons why, which most of you will be aware of anyway. That simply means that we're doing tasks, either we're doing development capital plans at a stage that's not in the now, i.e. we'd hope to be able to do it now, but we may need to go back to the planning application, get the planning application right. So for example, if you look at the AP Community Hub, it's currently out to tender. We expect the work to go on for a year. Subsequently, we're reprofiling the spend on that. It's going ahead. It's just we just need to get a few things right. Same as the North Stifford interchange. There is a couple around the Riverside Business Centre and the reception, of which the funding has been withdrawn or moved around from other outside agencies, not just the local authority. So subsequently funding streams are going to have to be identified or closed down, which work is ongoing, so hence the reprofiling. So the work is ongoing. That's pretty much it. The previous indicators have been refreshed. If you'll remember, there was always that arbitrary indicator about capital. It went through corporate overview and scrutiny committee, for which they emphatised with us that the indicator was telling us very little, but it's taking a lot of time to calculate. There is an indicator which basically says how much we've gone into our plan, which is documented in page 6.1. Unless there's anything else, I've got nothing more to add. Anything from colleagues? No, so in that case, recommendations 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 for the capital monitoring report. Is everyone agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The time is about 7:47, and our meeting is now closed.